Most people think a mushroom is just a mushroom. It isn't. One of these became a billion-dollar industry because nobody harvested it on time. One can only be found by people who guard its location like a family secret. One grows by taking over a living insect from the inside, and another kills so many people that it accounts for 90% of all fatal mushroom poisonings worldwide. Let's start with the mushroom you've probably been overpaying for your entire life. Walk into almost any supermarket and you'll find three familiar mushrooms: button, crimini, portobello. They look different. They're priced differently. They're often sold for completely different recipes. But they're all the same species, Agaricus bisporus. The only difference is age, and in one case, a single lucky accident. Button mushrooms as we know them today didn't even exist until 1925, when a Pennsylvania farmer found a single pale mutant growing in a sea of brown mushrooms. He propagated it, called it Snow White, and the white button mushroom rapidly became the dominant variety. Crimini are the original brown strain, harvested young. Portobellos are simply crimini left to grow until fully mature. And those fully mature specimens were largely discarded or taken home by growers until the 1980s, when a marketing group coined the name Portobello, gave them an Italian-sounding identity, and turned an overlooked product into a premium ingredient overnight. But while these mushrooms became successful through branding, the next one became famous because it could grow almost anywhere. Oyster mushrooms are among the most adaptable fungi on Earth. They can grow on straw, wood, coffee grounds, cardboard, even agricultural waste. Their flavor is mild and slightly savory, often compared to seafood. That flexibility helped oyster mushrooms become one of the most cultivated mushrooms in the world. But their success wasn't originally about taste. During periods of food shortages in Europe, oyster mushrooms became attractive because they could be produced quickly and cheaply. A food of necessity eventually became a gourmet ingredient. The next mushroom took the exact opposite path. Chanterelles refuse to cooperate with farmers. Bright yellow and shaped like tiny trumpets, they grow in wild forests and form complex relationships with living trees. Their flavor is often described as fruity, peppery, and slightly apricot-like. Unlike oyster mushrooms, chanterelles have largely resisted large-scale cultivation. That means nearly every chanterelle sold commercially began its journey on a forest floor, and that scarcity keeps prices high. But chanterelles aren't the only mushroom that nature refuses to mass produce. Enoki mushrooms look almost artificial. Long stems, tiny caps, pure white color. They resemble noodles more than mushrooms. Their texture is crisp and slightly crunchy. Their flavor is delicate. For centuries, they've been used in East Asian cooking, especially soups and hot pots. But here's what most people don't know about their appearance. It comes from darkness. Commercial growers cultivate enoki with very limited light. The mushroom stretches toward a light source that never arrives. The result is the distinctive elongated shape people recognize today. Wild enoki look nothing like the supermarket version. But another mushroom is difficult to obtain for an entirely different reason. Morels are among the most sought-after wild mushrooms in the world. Their honeycomb appearance makes them instantly recognizable. Their flavor is rich, earthy, and intensely savory. Every spring, thousands of foragers head into forests hoping to find them. And most fail. Nobody fully controls where morels appear. Weather matters. Soil matters. Trees matter. Timing matters. Many experienced foragers protect their favorite locations more carefully than financial investments. Good patches often remain family secrets for generations. But even morels seem affordable compared to what comes next. Because some mushrooms aren't just rare, they became symbols of an entire culture. Matsutake occupies a unique position in Japanese food culture. It isn't just food, it's a seasonal event. Its aroma is difficult to describe. Spicy, woodsy, almost pine-like. For centuries, Matsutake became associated with status and celebration. The challenge is supply. Nobody has fully mastered commercial cultivation. The mushroom depends on a complex underground relationship with tree roots. Destroy the forest. The mushroom disappears. And in some regions, exactly that has happened. Limited supply combined with intense cultural demand created one of the most expensive mushrooms on Earth. But while Matsutake represents luxury, the next mushroom represents something far more serious. The death cap looks surprisingly ordinary. That's part of the problem. Nothing about its appearance warns people how dangerous it is. Yet this single species, Amanita phalloides, is responsible for 90% of all fatal mushroom poisonings worldwide. Symptoms begin 6 to 32 hours after eating. The toxin attacks the liver and kidneys. Then something particularly cruel happens. Symptoms temporarily improve. Victims often believe they are recovering. In reality, the damage is continuing internally, and by the time organ failure begins, it is often too late. Half a cap is enough to kill an adult. Cooking doesn't help. The toxin is heat stable. The death cap proves one important lesson. The most dangerous mushrooms are not always the strangest looking ones. Sometimes they look exactly like dinner. And that brings us to a mushroom now associated with the opposite idea. Health. Lion's mane doesn't resemble a typical mushroom at all. Instead of caps and stems, it forms cascading white spines that resemble fur. Its flavor is often compared to seafood. Some describe it as similar to crab or lobster. But taste is only part of the story. Lion's mane exploded in popularity because researchers began studying two compounds it contains, heracenins and erinacines, which have been shown in laboratory and animal studies to stimulate the production of nerve growth factor, a protein involved in the maintenance and growth of neurons. Clinical trials in humans are still early and small, but the mechanism is real and the research is ongoing. A niche mushroom suddenly became mainstream. Supplements appeared everywhere. Coffee blends followed. But even lion's mane has a less unusual origin than our final mushroom. Cordyceps sounds fictional. It starts as a parasite. Certain species infect insects and insect larvae, sometimes underground, sometimes in trees and forest floors. The fungus slowly develops inside the host before producing a stalk that emerges from the body. If you've seen The Last of Us, you already have a rough idea of how this works in nature. For centuries, people in Himalayan regions observed the fungus growing from the bodies of ghost moth caterpillars at altitude. Over time, it became one of the most valuable medicinal fungi in the world. Wild specimens can sell for extraordinary prices. And because genuine wild cordyceps are so valuable, counterfeit products became a global problem. Today, most commercial cordyceps come from cultivation rather than the wild, which means one of the most expensive mushrooms on Earth started its journey inside an insect that never had any idea what was growing inside it.